I'm Paul Nuwer. I'm flying Panchito, North American B-25 this weekend in support of the Syracuse Air Show. This is part of the way that we're able to go and keep the last 30 or 32 of these things flying. There were made almost 11,000 of them, and we're down to a relatively few of these. And to show these off to the public, these are played an important role in our history, our most recent history, and particularly in World War II. It has the distinction of being one of two combat Allied aircraft that saw service throughout the war and also in all the theaters. It's actually the only armed combat airplane that actually fulfilled that role. The other airplane I'm speaking of is the C-47. So it was everywhere and did everything. This airplane was designed in the mid-late 30s, and it really shows in the way the airplane is operated. This is the time when we weren't really that terribly far away from Ford's Model A Ford. And it's got a few rough edges. This was a slide roll designed airplane, not computer designed. So things like control harmony that we take for granted in airplanes today simply don't exist in this kind of airplane. There are no servo tabs on the control surfaces. There's no hydraulic boost. You just kind of got to pull it and push it. Panchito, as you see, it has an awful lot of guns on it. This is as it would have flown in the South Pacific, or actually did fly in the South Pacific against the Japanese shipping. It's got a lot of 50 caliber guns. It's got 13 50 caliber guns on this thing. And as you see it here, this was not even a criteria when the airplane was designed. This was not the mission it was designed for. But due to the flexibility of the airplane design, it was flexible enough to be able to use for things that came up on the fly, as it were. This airplane was exceedingly effective on the low-level strafing missions against the Japanese in the South Pacific. Each of these engines here are 1,700 horsepower. They're 2,600 cubic inches per side. You've got almost a 13-foot propeller on each side of there. You go and climb into the airplane on this, the pilot and the co-pilot, the bombardier navigator, as well as the flight engineer. He would climb in this front door right over here. You got a 6-man crew that normally operated the airplane. Most everyone, with the exception of the pilot and co-pilot, they did just that, those particular missions. And the tail turret gunner, he stayed where he was, but everyone else doubled up. As far as bombers are concerned, it held a relatively low payload for bombers, particularly when you compare it to today's stuff. Only held an actual capacity of 3,000 pounds. Relatively small. However, again, during its time, this was significant.
And the bomb bay doors are open back under the airplane, as you can see.
At the time the airplane was designed, this particular one, Panchito, was actually rolled off the assembly line. We were well late into the war, and air superiority was generally pretty well assured on the Allied side. Paint weighed a lot, so they just delivered them in bare metal. We polish the airplane. It takes a lot of hours, on the order of about 400 to 500 man hours per year to keep this thing polished like this. And it's strictly a matter of it looks prettier.
Here's the B-25 Panchito from right to left in a photo pass. Panchito was a Disney character in an animated feature back in about 1942 or so.
We're here in front of Panchito again. We've got John. John actually flew in B-25s in World War II in the South Pacific.
The best airplane there was in World War II. I trained on B-25s in Columbia, South Carolina. I went to the South Pacific. I was in New Guinea and the Philippines. I was a radio operator and a gunner.
Now the B-25 pilot, Paul Nuwer, is going to make his money because this is the hard part, landing in this wind. And you know what? I'm sure he'll grease it right on as he always does.
I'm not a very emotional guy, but deep inside, I love this airplane, and I can't wait to get in there and fly it again.
We take living history, flight experience rides, where we actually take the public for a ride in the airplane, give them the experience of what it was like with these kind of airplanes when they were operated. This airplane also takes part in the Navy Test Pilot School's quality evaluation program. Panchito is the airplane featured in a flight training program under an FAA flight exemption also, where we teach people to fly this type of airplane, World War II airplanes.
Well, I'll tell you one thing I never forgot. When I got on the airplane and it started those engines and I heard a crackling and a popping, I just loved that noise. I just loved that noise. I just felt comfortable and I was ready to go.